People always ask why I jog so early in the morning. Honestly, I don't know anymore. Maybe it's the silence before the world wakes up. Or maybe it's because my dog, Buzzo, a golden cocker spaniel, won't let me sleep past 6 a.m. That morning started like any other winter jog, except for the fog. It wasn't the usual soft mist you can squint through. This fog was thick, dense enough that I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. It swallowed the path, the trees, even the cornfields that stretched endlessly along the outskirts of town. Everything beyond arm's reach looked smudged out, but Buzzo didn't care. His tail was wagging wildly, floppy ears bouncing as he trotted beside me, occasionally sniffing the frosted ground. I tugged my hoodie tighter around my neck. "Come on, Buzzo, in and out, quick lap, then breakfast." The cold air stung my lungs with each breath. The only sounds were our footsteps and the faint jingle of Buzzo's collar, until something else slipped through the silence. A rustle, not the wind, not an animal, something heavier. I stopped. Buzzo followed. The fog wrapped around us like a curtain, muffling everything. I stared at the cornfields, just a towering mass of blurred stalks and shadows. Probably a deer, I mumbled, more to convince myself than anything. We kept moving, but the unease clung to me like the wet mist settling on my skin. Then I heard it again, another rustle, lower this time. Buzzo's body went stiff, his ears pricked forward, and a low growl rolled out of his throat. I'd heard him bark, whine, howl, but rarely growl like that. It was the kind of sound he made only when he sensed real danger. Hey, buddy, come on." I gently tugged his leash. "Let's go back, fog's getting bad." But before I could take a full step, Buzzo tensed, and then he bolted. He yanked the leash right out of my hand and dove headfirst into the cornfield, disappearing into the fog in seconds. "Buzzo!" My voice echoed into the gray nothingness. "Buzzo, come back!" Panic surged through me like a punch to the chest. I sprinted after him, tearing through the icy stalks, wet leaves slapping against my face. The fog made everything disorienting. I couldn't tell how far I'd gone or which direction the path was anymore. Then I heard Buzzo barking, furious, rapid, frantic. He'd never barked like that in his life. I forced myself deeper into the corn, branches scraping my arms. My breathing was loud, too loud. Every other sound felt swallowed by the fog. The barking grew louder. All of a sudden, it was overlapped by a spine-chilling scream, a man's scream. My heart lodged in my throat. "Buzzo, where are you?" I crashed through a final wall of stalks and stumbled into a clearing, a flattened patch of mud and broken corn stalks. And there they were. Buzzo stood planted in front of a man curled on the ground. My dog's teeth were bared, fur bristling, his body shaking with rage. The man scrambled backward, his face pale and wild-eyed. His right hand was dripping blood. A rusty knife lay a few feet away, knocked into the mud. "What the hell?" I whispered. The man looked up at me, eyes frantic. Call him off, man! Call him off! He tried to kill me!" "He's a dog," I said. "He doesn't just attack." But even as I said it, I knew the truth. He didn't attack. He protected. I stepped closer, and the man flinched, clutching his bleeding hand against his chest. "Get your dog away from me!" he yelled. "Buzz," I said firmly, "come here." But Buzzo didn't move. His entire body was locked onto the man with laser focus. His growl deepened. I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw it. A thick rope partially buried under the leaves along with a torn backpack, footprints circling the clearing, waiting places. This wasn't a hiker. This man had been hiding, lurking, waiting possibly for someone like me. Everything clicked at once. The rustling, Buzzo's reaction, the knife. He hadn't been attacked. Buzzo had stopped him. The man's expression shifted the moment he realized I understood. His panic faded into something colder, calculating. He lunged for the knife, but Buzzo beat him to it, launching forward with a snarl. The man jerked back, slipping in the mud. Buzzo's teeth clamped onto his wrist again. The scream that tore out of him was worse this time, raw and choked. I ran in, grabbed Buzzo's collar, pulling him back. The man scrambled to his feet and bolted into the fog, disappearing so fast it was like the fog swallowed him whole. I held Buzzo tightly as he shook with adrenaline. "Good boy, you're okay. You did great." My hands were trembling uncontrollably. I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911. When the operator answered, the words practically tumbled out of me. "There's a man. He had a knife. My dog, there's blood. Send someone, please." Police arrived within minutes, fog still thick enough that I heard them before I saw them. They combed the cornfield and found the knife, the blood trail, the rope. Not the man. He'd escaped. But later, they told me he'd been reported multiple times, lurking along jogging trails, targeting early runners. "He was hiding there to rob someone," the officer said. "If your dog hadn't gone after him, you would have walked right past his hiding spot." I looked down at Buzzo, who was sitting between my feet, panting and wagging his tail like none of this was out of the ordinary. That morning, I realized something terrifying. I had walked past that spot every day. Every day. Someone had probably been watching me, studying my routine, waiting for the fog or an early morning when I was alone. I didn't sleep well for weeks after that. Every rustle, every shadow, every foggy morning made my skin crawl. But Buzzo? He slept curled up against my chest every night, warm and soft, as if protecting me, even in my dreams. Sometimes people say animals sense things we can't. That morning, I learned they're right. I thought I was walking my dog for exercise. Turns out, he was walking me for protection. My therapist says writing this out might help me sleep again. I don't know if it will, but here I am. If you're reading this, please understand, I am not exaggerating anything. I'm 29 years old, and what happened to me during my sunrise walk 2 months ago has changed the way I look at every person I meet. I walk the same trail every day before work. It loops around a lake, then cuts through a patch of forest before opening back up into a grassy clearing. That morning, the sky was soft pink, the air cold enough to sting my nose. I had just rounded the bend near the old picnic benches when I heard branches snapping. I stared at the direction from where the sound came from. First few seconds, I saw nothing. Then, slowly and silently, a woman stumbled out of the woods. She was barefoot, covered in dirt with a bruised face, hair tangled with leaves. She was shaking so violently I could hear her teeth clicking, and the look in her eyes, wide, wild terror. Her voice cracked as she whispered,
"Please, he's going to kill me. Help."
I kept my voice steady, or tried to. Something told me not to panic, not in front of her. I slipped my hand into my hoodie pocket and pressed the power button on my phone. I didn't lift it out. I didn't look down. I just dialed 911 by muscle memory and kept it hidden, letting the operator listen.
"It's okay.
I murmured to the woman, reaching out slowly like she was a wounded animal.
You're safe with me. Just breathe."
But she grabbed me, hard, fingers digging into my arms so tightly I winced. She kept glancing over her shoulder at the tree line, like something was stalking her from behind every trunk.
"I left my bag in there. It has all my details, but I'm scared to go back there alone,"
she whispered. Her fear felt real enough to choke on. I spoke gently to keep her calm, but the truth is, I was terrified. My hand was shaking in my pocket, gripping the phone, praying 911 understood I couldn't talk. Then, I heard a sudden movement. It came from the woods, slow, deliberate steps, like someone pushing through bushes and coming closer. The woman's nails dug deeper into my skin, her entire body stiffened. A tall man stepped out between the trees. He was holding a shovel, and not a clean one. The blade was caked in soil, fresh soil. He didn't say a word, just stared at us with this blank, unreadable expression. Not angry, not surprised, almost patient. The woman immediately ducked behind me, like a child hiding from a monster. Her sobbing was so loud I could feel it shaking my back.
Please don't let him take me.
She cried. I stood there, frozen between them, heart pounding so hard it drowned out the birds. The man's eyes flicked from her to me, then back to her. And then, without a single word, he turned around and walked back into the woods, just disappeared behind the trees. I didn't understand. Why leave? Why walk away so calmly? My phone buzzed in my pocket, nearly making me jump. I looked down. A silent text from 911. Units arriving. Stay where you are. The woman still clung to me like she was about to collapse. I kept whispering,
"It's okay. Help is coming. Just stay with me."
even though my own legs were trembling. Minutes later, though it felt like hours, officers appeared from the trail entrance. They didn't run. They approached slowly, cautiously, hands hovering near their holsters. Two of them went past me into the woods. Within seconds, one of them shouted. I don't know exactly what they found, but I heard the words like fresh dirt, rope, half dug, and footprints. The rest stayed with me and the woman. I kept explaining everything, how she ran out, what she said, what the man did. I expected sympathy, reassurance. Instead, one of the officers kept staring at the woman with a puzzled, almost disturbed expression. Then he asked me something that made no sense at the time. "Ma'am, did she ask who you called?" I blinked.
"What?"
"Did she ask if you had a phone, or ask you to call anyone?" I replayed that moment in my head. The trembling, the begging, the grip on my arm.
"No.
I said slowly.
She never asked anything about a phone."
The officer nodded like that confirmed something. He stepped closer, voice low. "Victims who are running for their lives usually ask for help, ask for a phone, ask if the police were called." I frowned, confused, but before I could respond, he pointed subtly at the woman. She wasn't trembling anymore, not shaking, not crying, just standing perfectly still, watching me. Her posture had changed completely. No fear, no desperation. Her face, though bruised, was eerily neutral now, almost calculating. The officer leaned in even closer, barely whispering. She wasn't running from that man. I felt my throat close up.
"What are you talking about?"
The officer nodded toward the trees where the man had disappeared. He didn't leave because he was scared. He walked back because she wasn't doing her job. I stared at him, horrified.
What job?
He looked me dead in the eyes, jaw tightening. To lure victims into the woods. My entire body went numb, the world around me muffled like someone stuffed cotton in my ears. I turned to look at the woman, slowly, terrified of what I'd see. She didn't look away. Her eyes, earlier wide with fear, were flat now. Empty, cold, like she was evaluating whether she'd get another chance. One of the officers gently pulled me behind him. Another restrained the woman's hands as she watched me without blinking. And that was it. The moment I realized everything I thought was wrong. The moment I understood how close I came to walking into those woods with her when she mentioned about her bag. How easily I could have been dragged into that half-dug grave. The woman was taken into custody by the cops, but the man haven't been found yet. I still take walks, but never during early mornings, never near the woods, and never, ever alone. I always go for morning walks through Riverside Park. Nothing about that day seemed weird until I saw this homeless-looking woman walking past me with a tiny boy, maybe 4 or 5. The woman leaned down and whispered,
"You just wait at the bench. Mom will be back with cotton candy."
It sounded normal, sweet even, but something about her felt wrong. I shook my head, brushed it off, and kept jogging. About 20 minutes later, my route curved back toward that same bench, and the boy was still sitting alone. His legs dangled off the seat, kicking at nothing. He was counting softly. 1, 2, 3. Using his tiny fingers, touching each chubby fingertip like he'd practiced it 1,000 times. Hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Mommy said I should count to 10 when I get scared, but Mommy still didn't come back.
He glanced around with wet eyes, then looked at me.
Should I keep counting?
Something twisted inside of me. Who leaves a kid this young alone for so long? Before I could say anything, a harsh voice cut through the air.
Hey! Get away from my kid!
I turned around. The same woman stood there, but now with a huge pink cotton candy and a man beside her, a rough-looking guy with a shaved head. The woman strutted toward me.
Mind your damn business!
The man smirked. Yeah, hero. Go jog elsewhere. Heat rushed through my face, but I forced myself to back off. I walked away, anger buzzing in my ears. I told myself not to interfere again. Not my family, not my problem. But then, I heard it. A sentence that froze me mid-step.
I can't afford to feed him anymore. Just give me the money.
Relax. I told you you'll get paid. The buyers want a kid his age. My blood ran cold. I peered over my shoulder. The man handed her a stack of cash. She snatched it without even looking at the boy. The kid started crying immediately.
Mommy? Mommy, please don't go.
She didn't even turn around. The man lifted the still crying kid like he was lifting groceries and headed toward the park's exit. I followed him because I couldn't just walk away. A black van waited by the curb, engine running. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, whispering everything. The exchange, the crying, the cash. Dispatch told me officers were on the way, but the man put the kid inside the van and slammed the door shut. Panic punched me. The cops won't make it in time. The man stood outside the van, leaning against the passenger door, talking on the phone. Got a good one today. I'll pay a hefty sum for him. My hands shook. I had two choices: wait and hope the cops made it, or take a risk and save the kid. Before my brain could argue, my legs were already moving. I crept behind the van, slowly lifted the handle, and eased the door open. The kid sat curled up on the floor, tears staining his cheeks. He looked up at me with those big eyes.
Where's Mommy?
Shh, I whispered, lifting him into my arms. I'm getting you out of... Hey, what the hell? I barely turned before a fist smashed into my face. Pain exploded through my jaw. I stumbled back, shielding the boy with my body. The man punched me again, this time in my ribs, so hard I thought something cracked. I still refused to let go. He swung again, but by now people nearby noticed the commotion. The man realized the gravity of the situation and grabbed the kid's tiny arm. Don't touch him! He shoved the child toward me violently, as if trying to get revenge. I barely held on to the kid, collapsing onto the concrete with him on top of me. He clung to my shirt, sobbing. The man peeled out in the van before anyone could stop him. Cops arrived minutes later. Turns out the woman was a drug addict who'd sold her son. The man was part of a trafficking ring. The kid, his name was Oliver, held my hand the entire ride to the station. He wouldn't let go. Inside, when officers asked him questions, he refused to sit anywhere except on my lap. He kept wiping his eyes with his little fists. Every time a door opened, he flinched. Hours later, when the paperwork was finally done, I stood up to leave. All right, buddy, I said softly. You're safe now. The officers will take care of you. He didn't move. I turned toward the exit and felt something wrap tightly around my leg. I looked down. Oliver stood there, trembling, cheeks streaked with tears. His voice was barely a whisper.
Please don't leave me. Everyone leaves me.
I swear, those lines hit harder than any punch that trafficker threw. I knelt down and gathered him into my arms. He buried his face in my chest like he'd known me forever. I didn't know what made me say it. Maybe instinct, maybe something bigger. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. 6 months later, Oliver's sitting on my couch in dinosaur pajamas, drawing us with crayons, his tiny hand holding a green crayon with fierce concentration. He hears my footsteps and looks up, smiling, the first real smile I've ever seen from him. The adoption process is on progress. I've hired a good lawyer, and so far things are looking positive for us.
Daddy, look!
I still tear up every time he calls me that. I walk over and ruffle his curls. He giggles and keeps drawing. People ask, why am I adopting him? Why am I taking responsibility for him? They never heard him say those words. They never felt his tiny arms cling to them like he was holding on for dear life. He needed someone, and truthfully, I think I did too. Now, when we walk through the same park, he holds my hand so tightly I sometimes joke that he'll cut the circulation off. But the truth is, I always hold back just a little tighter, because nobody is ever taking him away again.